Alright guys, got a new video for you today. We are doing black-white tokens. We will be playing Tron. We're going to go ahead and go over the deck real quick. Your lands, pretty normal assortment, black-white lands. You've got some Godless Shrines, ISO Chapel, a couple fetches in there, Shambling Vents, Vault of the Archangel, some pretty decent tech. Allows us to trade favorably when we otherwise wouldn't be able to. So that's very nice. Let's see if we can get this preview pane working. Oh, well, there it is. Got Windbrisk Heights, 2 Paths mainboard, 2 Extirpates mainboard, which can give, your control matchup, your Tron matchup. It can give them Fit Storm by exiling all copies of a key card at instant speed, and it has the benefit um, of being uncounterable due to split second. So this is a great one. I know Surgical Extraction sees a lot of play because it takes Phyrexian mana, but if your mana base can support Extirpate, there are very few things that are sure in a game of Magic. But playing a card with split second, it's about as sure as you can get. So we've got 4 of Thoughtseize, 3 of Bitter Blossom, 4 of Tide Hollow Sculler, which is basically a Thoughtseize on a stick. Allows you to be a little bit more aggressive at the beginning of a game because it comes attached to a 2/2 body, but it can become a liability if it ends up getting removed late game. So that's something you need to keep in mind. 4 of Lingering Souls, 4 of Midnight Haunting. Like this one, instant speed, combat tricks, can put our opponents in some awkward positions. If they don't know it's in the deck, they attack into it. Maybe we can take out a creature that's really important to their deck. Got 3 of Phyrexian Arena, just for some card draw. We've got 4 of Day of Judgment for your more aggressive decks, or even for your more mid-range decks. We have 2 Sorin Lord of Innistrad. Basically, you put him down, you make an emblem, and you try to protect him, and then you get those 1/1 black vampire creature tokens with lifelink, which is really important because we have a lot of cards in here that hurt us between the Phyrexian Arena, the Bitter Blossoms, the Thoughtseizes, all of the shock lands and the fetch lands. So those tokens can actually come in really handy. We've got Elspeth Tyrael, another planeswalker that we've got in there. This one for 2 reasons. First off, you gain 1 life for each creature you control. Once again, this deck, we cut on ourselves a lot. Our mana base does it. Our spells do it. So being able to gain a large amount of life and kind of stabilize ourselves from our own spells is very important. It also acts as a great board wipe, allowing you to destroy all other permanents except for lands and tokens if you get to that -5, which is only 1 tick up. So if you can protect her from 1 turn, then you can basically wipe the board with the exception of course, all your tokens, which you would want to stay in play. She also naturally protects herself by creating 3/1/1 white soldier tokens. I think she's a really powerful planeswalker. Gideon Jura, pretty standard in sort of your control decks. +2, your target opponent's next turn, all of his creatures have to attack him. Sorry about that. A little bit of a phone call there. And then you can destroy a tapped creature late game. He just turns into a 6/6 and he beats in. And then we've got 1 Orzhov Signet. Helps with mana fixing. Helps against Magus of the Moon and Blood Moon. It's something you definitely want to see in your main hand if you are going to draw into it. It's a little bit of a bummer late game draw, but our land base is extremely susceptible to Blood Moon and Magus, as are most multicolored land bases in Modern. So that's what that's in there for. Rest of the sideboard, couple paths, couple relics, 2 more Inquisitions, 2 Stony Silences, 2 Auriok Champions. This, of course, being for your games against Burn, Red Aggro, Also works very, very well against Death Shadow. It will block Gurmag Anglers all day, Death Shadows all day. You know, any creature, it'll block it. Zealous Persecution, it's a nice, fun trick. I actually bring it in against teams and against players that run a whole bunch of mana dorks. So early removal, -1/-1. Nevermore, just a fun I gotcha card. You can probably be running Rune Halo in this slot instead, and you'd probably be better off. But I kind of like the I gotcha aspect of Nevermore. And then Leyline of Sanctity, which pretty well known. You have hexproof, so it comes in against Storm, comes in against Red Burn, comes in against Mill. There are a lot of decks where you just auto sideboard in Leyline. All right, so that was the explanation. Let's go ahead and get the video queued up real quick. Probably should have had this already. All right. And we're just going to go ahead and pull that out and we'll get started. So here's our opening hand. We don't know what our opponent is at this point. What we do know is we've got a Thoughtseize for turn 1. We've got an Extirpate for the next turn. Against certain decks, that can just be absolutely backbreaking. If you're playing Storm, you can get rid of some of their most important combo pieces if it's in their opening hand. For example, you can Thoughtseize Past in Flames and then Extirpate it. Okay, you can Thoughtseize Gifts, Extirpate it. So that is a combo that I really enjoy seeing in my opening hand. Got Bitter Blossom for some recurring black fairies to kind of help us stay a little bit more aggressive, block if need be. Tide Hollow Sculler, so even more ways to rip our opponent's hands apart, and then Lingering Souls. So this is definitely keepable. We're going to Thoughtseize. We're going to stop right there. That's a Chromatic Star, a Karn, a Relic of Progenitus, and an Ulamog. We are going to take the Karn. Honestly, I think that keep on our opponent part was a little bit suspect. They actually drew into this expedition map. Had they not drew into it, they would have been extremely far off from Tron with 2 of their finishers in their opening hand, which is probably not where you want to be as a Tron player. I don't know. Maybe it was a little bit of a greedy keep, or maybe that's a completely serviceable hand for Tron. I'm not sure. I don't play it. So we draw another Thoughtseize. Great draw. Tide Hollow Sculler. Take a peek at the hand. We're going to take the Ulamog, and then we're just going to pass the turn. Opponent plays Sanctum of Ugin. Passes. Draw another Tide Hollow Sculler. So just more of tearing our opponent's hand apart. We take the Chromatic Star, mostly because it creates mana. And we will continue attacking with our Tide Sculler. Get in for 2. So at this point, we know what's in our opponent's hand. Okay, he has no Tron lands. He is light on Tron lands. So we see him crack this expedition map, and our first thought should be we need to try to cordon off any avenues that he has for assembling Tron. So we're actually going to extirpate this expedition map. Okay, plays a relic, passes. Here comes the extirpate. Take out all the expedition maps. Get in for 4. We will pass the turn. So that was actually relatively interesting. That hit off of Windbrisk was 2 board wipes and 2 lands. I can't think of a situation in this particular game at the moment where we would want to attack with 3 creatures and then wipe the board. So I actually just went ahead and exiled Shambling Vent. I figure at some point we can get in with 3 creatures, cast Shambling Vent, and the next turn we have another attacker if we're out of gas in our hand. Opponent cracks the relic, draws a card. Ancient Stirrings. I know you guys can't see this, but he shows us Karn the Liberated. Drops a Chromatic Sphere, cracks it. Bitter Blossom into Thoughtseize to grab the Karn, and we're just going to get in for another 4. Opponent plays Mine, passes turn. So right here, one of my thoughts, and the reason I played Phyrexian Arena over something like Lingering Souls, is I do not want to get blown out by All is Dust. That is one of the ways in which we can lose this game. So we're just going to Phyrexian Arena. We're going to trust that between the Lingering Souls and the additional card draws that we're going to get, we can recover from, any sort of incident with All is Dust or anything like that. We're going to get in here for 4, and we're going to pass turn. So our opponent's at a position where they would have had to have had All in Dust in hand, and they would have had to have drawn a power plant that turn. They didn't, so they scooped, and we'll go on to the next game. I think it starts somewhere around here. All right, so you guys didn't get to see the sideboarding. I made one really huge error during sideboarding, which you'll actually see in the opening hand. So I'm just going to see if you guys can figure it out. And I'll tell you maybe a little bit later. We'll go over it. All right, so you might it flashed by pretty quickly. There was a Day of Judgment in my opening hand. I forgot to sideboard those out. On the other hand, we did bring in Stony Silences. We saw that in our first mulligan. So we actually like this hand right here. We've got a Phyrexian Arena for card draw, Midnight Haunting, and Stony Silence. It's a pretty decent hand, so we're going to keep that one. Opponent starts on an Expedition map, and we start with a tapped Godless Shrine. Right now, we are just hoping that this Stony Silence can slow them down enough for us to start building up a board presence. Is it going to happen? Not sure. Not looking great. Opponent just played a tower, so he's 2/3 of the way there. All right, so here's a situation where we could have played Midnight Haunting in order to get some creatures on the floor. I went with Phyrexian Arena because I felt like we're already a little bit behind and that the additional card draw for answers was more important than one turn of attacking. Opponent drops a mine, passes turn, so we're looking good. We're looking like we might have dodged it. Play Godless Shrine, we're going to pass turn, we're going to flash in Midnight Haunting at the end of our opponent's turn. Opponent Ancient Stirrings, shows us Power Plant, and the star of the night is Karn. Karn takes Stony Silence, and that's going to allow our opponent to dump his hand. So things are not looking great, but at this point, I think there's still a way out. Alright, Midnight Haunting for 2 tokens. On tap, draw 2 cards. Linger's not a terrible draw. So at this point, I know I've got Elspeth. I only need to plus her once So if I can keep Karn below 3, then I might be able to play Elspeth, plus her, and then use her ultimate to destroy all the permanents in play, obviously including Karn. That's the plan. That's the line that I'm taking right here. See if it works. Karn down to 1. Pass the turn. Chromatic Star. And World Breaker. More like Backbreaker, am I right? Yeah. So World Breaker comes into play. He's going to take our Phyrexian Arena. And this is basically the furthest thing from what we wanted to see. Maybe a Worm Coil engine, but whenever Tron puts anything on the board, that's not artifact. Or even maybe when it is an artifact with Worm Coil engine, you know you're in trouble. All right. +1 Tron, or excuse me, +1 Karns. We discard a land. And opponent draws a ton of cards. So we actually have a plan here. All right, so if we can get Karn down to 2, play Elspeth, plus her once, chump block with the token on this World Breaker, there's a chance that we can ultimate her. Now then, that starts by bluffing our opponent out of blocking with this Vault of Archangel. And you're going to see it's going to work, but it might not be enough. So we're going to cast the Vault of the Archangel, put it into play. And we're going to attack with only 3 tokens. Reason we're doing that, number 1, I don't want my opponent to think that we're just going like straight into Karn. Reason number 2, obviously we're going to be dropping Elspeth, assuming our opponent chooses not to block. So we need to have a blocker on the back end so that she doesn't die to the swing coming back. And number 3, at this point, attacking with 3, attacking with 4, for what we're trying to do, knowing that in order to activate Vault, in order to make any sort of a block here profitable for us, it's going to make it to where we can't play Elspeth. So basically what we're threatening is only 3 damage to Karn, which we're hoping our opponent will take. When he looks across the table and sees Vault, we're hoping he's going to go like, no, I don't want to lose my 5/7 World Breaker to a stupid little token. This is a bad block. I'm not taking it. There we go. So opponent thought about it. He actually put his World Breaker there to block, and then saw the Vault, maybe read the card, and was like, no, this is a bad idea. That's exactly what we were hoping would happen. All right, so Karn's down to 2. We play Elspeth, +1, so she can ultimate next turn. But opponent drew an Ulamog. And exiles Elspeth and Vault, and we will scoop right there. With the cards in our hand, there's no coming back from that. All right, game 3. So we mulligan our first hand, mostly because when you're playing Tron, tokens alone, it's not going to do it. You need some way to interact with their hand. This hand looks a little bit better. And when we look at the top card of our library, which is a Thoughtseize, went by really fast, this hand gets even better looking. Unfortunately, we make a really rookie play. and we just have to hope it does not cost us the game. There it was. Right there. We cracked our polluted delta, and we shuffled away the Thoughtseize that was on the top of the deck. If I'm honest, I'm still a little bit new to playing with fetches. I've only had fetches for the last week or so. So, take this as a learning experience. Don't do that. If you are on the draw and you have mulliganed and you have scryed something to the top, for God's sake, if you're gonna play a fetch land, wait until the beginning of your turn after the draw phase to crack it. All right, Thoughtseize. Wow, that went by so fast. So, Collective Brutality, Expedition Map, Sylvan Scrying. Right now, I don't realize that I have put that Thoughtseize, that I've shuffled it away. So I see this hand with 2 towers, 1 power plant, 2 towers, an Expedition Map, and a Sylvan Scrying. And I'm thinking I pretty much have this game in the bag. Because I'm going to Thoughtseize away this first Expedition Map. I'm going to Thoughtseize away the Sylvan Scrying. And my opponent's hand is going to be the 2 cards he draws plus a Collective Brutality. Opponent plays a tower, plays a sphere. And we draw an isolated chapel. And we're stunned. We can't quite figure out what happened. Takes us a little while. Play a land. And we pass. Opponent plays a power plant. Sylvan Scrying. So our opponent is on turn 4 Tron. We're going to linger. And we're going to pass the turn. So right now we're sort of in this just aggro. We got to go aggro. Opponent is going to drop a Worm Coil Engine here. This gives us basically 1 out. And that 1 out is Path to Exile. This card will take over the game if we do not draw a path. And RNG loves us. This is Magic saying, look, you made a stupid move. You scryed away your Thoughtseize. So here's the card you need in this one particular instance. This is by far the best draw. Really, in our deck, it's the only draw to get us out of this situation. Play the Shrine, flashback the Souls. And then we're going to path, of course, the Worm Coil Engine on the attack. Give our opponent a land. So right now we're feeling pretty good, but we have a decision. Do we Tidehollow Sculler right now to do a hand check, or do we want to go Sorin, Anthem to put the pressure on? Gonna go in Sorin, make an Anthem, swing in for 8. Opponent fatal pushes, and honestly, that is something we're okay with. We will take that trade all day long. Opponent's down to 11. Collective Brutality kills another one of our creatures. I don't know Tron's sideboard plan, but 1-for-1 removal against a token deck, I'm just not sure about it. Maybe, these are the only cards they have. Maybe there are some other cards that slot out really, really well. But I feel like against a token deck, 1-for-1 removal kind of puts Tron a little bit behind. So we're going to play the Godless Shrine, and this is just a hand check. And it's a tower. So at this point, we know we're pretty damn good here. We're going to go and create a vampire token. Fire up the Shambling Vent. Get in for 7, put our opponent down to 3. And opponent scoops. So, we made a ton of mistakes, but we were lucky enough to not get punished for them. I know a lot of people, you like scooping early, and a lot of people, a lot of new players, when they see, turn 3, turn 4 Tron, you might just be like, no, I'm scooping. And in some cases, if you know your deck well enough, that's okay. If you can make that educated decision and say, based on his turn 3 or turn 4 Tron and the cards I know I have in my deck, I have no out. But I would strongly recommend, even if you make a lot of unforced errors, like I did, shuffling that Thoughtseize away, that you always just see the game to the end. Because at the very least, you will get practice against a very, very popular deck. If you're playing something like Tron or Storm, um, Dust Shadow, these are decks you're going to see all the time. You need to practice against them. It's really, really, really important. But the other reason to keep playing is you never know what fancy deck or what fancy tech people are going to try to incorporate. So you might see something and you might just be like, wow, I have never seen that before in this deck. And then you go online, you look up the deck list, you find the 1 or 2 decks that have that one card, and you're like, wow, now I know this is something I need to be prepared for. So yeah, black-white token control, 2/1 Tron, not bad. Make some mistakes, but a lot of mistakes you can recover from. And that's about it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time.